Good morning and welcome to the Northern Territory in the Black Resilience Program. Today we are really honoured and privileged to have Aunty Bilawara Lee join us today. But let me start by first acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land upon which we are meeting via virtually, so that could be all over Australia. My name is Julianne and I'm a part of the Tagai Management Consultants team. But currently I'm on Gimoi Wallabara Yidinji country in Cairns, far north Queensland. But I'd like to acknowledge all First Nations people, our elders, past, present and emerging, and extend my respect to you, to your family and to your business and organisations. So like I said before, we're really excited to have Aunty Bilawara Lee come on our program today. This is called the Yarning Circle, where it's really time to yarn and talk about things that are affecting business or affecting us as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and just some tips for you to take away. But first we want to celebrate Aunty Bilawara. So I'm just going to read you a little bit of information about her. So Aunty Bilawara Lee is a senior elder of the Larrakia Nation of Darwin, Northern Territory. She is a Larrakia Academic in residence at Charles Darwin University and is a director on several boards and advisory committees. She has attained a degree in Cultural Heritage Management from the University of Canberra. Aunty Bilawara is acknowledged and respected as a healer and a teacher of ancient wisdoms of Aboriginal spirituality and healing, cross-cultural communication, and Larrakia cultural protocols. She is an internationally published author with 2 books, Star Dreaming and Healing from the Dilly Bag. Aunty Bilawara also travels nationally and internationally, conducting workshops and healing sessions, and in the Northern Territory presents on Doing It Right, cultural protocols for working in Aboriginal communities or with Aboriginal people and cross-cultural communication. She's also an authorised marriage celebrant, conducting many weddings, funerals, namings, and other many civil ceremonies. So welcome, Aunty Bilawara. Welcome to the Yarning Circle.
Good morning, everyone. Well, hello.
Yes. So like we said, we're really honoured to have you here today, and we know that you're very busy in your schedule, and it's also an honour for us to have a Larrakia elder join us as part of the Yarning Circle, so we greatly appreciate that. And I've known Aunty Bilawara for quite a long time. We did meet originally in Adelaide at a conference and had built a really good relationship and strong relationship from there. So it's a real honour for me to actually have and to interview you today and to talk to you through. And the topic we're going to be talking today, which is something sometimes either personally or family, or we're so busy in our lives or in business that sometimes we don't look after ourselves. So today's another really important subject on cultural health and wellbeing. And it's something that we need to talk about, and how do we look after ourselves and how do we look after our family in order to help build ourselves. So Aunty B, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, what you've done, all of those things. So.
Wow, we don't have that much time. But apart from what you've sort of outlined, I am the eldest of 15 children. I've got 9 brothers and 5 sisters.
Wow.
I think the ancestors had a good sense of humour. I have 3 children and 9 grandchildren. I am a member of the very large Darwin Kabilo family, which is one of the 8 family groups that make up the Larrakia Nation. And my name Bilawara means the red-tailed black cockatoo. It's an ancestral spirit being that brings about change. So I guess where I walk in life, what I teach and what I do is to bring about change. And I think my 2 books that I've done are also in an effort to bring about change. And one of them, Star Dreaming in particular, is very relevant to these times, difficult times that we're going through. I'm the Australian representative on an International Indigenous Grandmothers Council. And even though, you know, we're all Indigenous from all over the world and we practice our wisdoms and our cultural, you know, teachings, we're still hooked in very well to technology, and we keep in touch. almost on a daily basis. You know, we talk about what's happening in the world and what's happening to our families and communities and how we can support their resilience and survival. So I guess apart from all the other things that I do in the Western world, this is really important to me. And helping our mob is just part of my being.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've had the pleasure of reading your books, of course, and, you know, they're both absolutely amazing. And your knowledge and your wisdom certainly comes through the books and everything that you do as well. You know, and we're in a really interesting time in our lives at the moment with COVID-19. And, you know, this program, in the Black Anti-Indigenous Business Resilience, has come out of that, and it's about recovery from COVID-19. But we've seen, you know, with the lockdowns to do with the border closures and people not being able to go and maybe do ceremonial things like that, and so much stress has come forward with this as well. You know, have you encountered those type of issues yourself or within community? You know, that comes back because there's a whole fear attached to that as well.
Yeah. Now, I've got a little bit to share in that these times, and we've talked about it for 20 years in the Grandmother Council, were actually prophesied by many of the older, the women, the knowledge keepers, that there would be a time when the whole world would be affected, to bring about change. Now, we didn't know it was going to be coronavirus. We just knew that something was going to happen to make people seriously look at their lives and how they're living, how the world was just using up Mother Earth and her natural resources, and that it wasn't sustainable. So we were quite prepared and aware of it. That's why none of us travelled this year. We normally gather every year. So there's that, but we also in our teachings talk about, in Australia we talk about song lines, which are energy lines in Mother Earth, ley lines, energy grids, but we call them song lines. But every person is a song or a vibration or an energy tone. And as a healer, I'm sort of like a songline singer for an individual. Now, it's really important in this time, and you've got to look at what's happening here in Australia from a different perspective. We're being told to lock down, but in fact, we are being given the gift of stopping, slowing down, consolidating ourselves. I'm not talking business-wise because, yeah, that is really important, and I'll talk about that later. But as a person, we are being gifted a time of quiet and being with family. I mean, I turned 70 on Sunday, and, you know, I'd planned a cruise and party and everything. But in fact, I spent the whole day with family and some friends, and it was just wonderful. So it's made all of us change our way of life. And I think this is really important for how we settle ourselves now for our future, because the grandmas are all saying, yes, coronavirus is terrible, and those that could not live with spirit, and that includes culture, will cross over. Those that have left will be able to raise our personal song to be loud and strong so that we can go on into the future. So with our personal vibration or song line, the thing that can really mute it or destroy it is fear. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was how to combat feeling anxious and fearful and, you know, and I've been taught from childhood as a learning to be a healer that nothing happens. There is no such thing as coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. And as devastating as it is for certain things to be taken away from you in your life, it's for a reason. So I know it's a simple thing to say and it's a very hard thing to live, but I just urge everyone to, instead of instantly reacting to whatever happens, you know, whether you have to shut down your business or you have to stop and just quietly think about why and how you can come out of it being very innovative and maybe changing what you do slightly because, you know, we'll get through it. And this is the sort of second wave, and then suddenly it'll disappear. This I'll tell you what the grandmothers we've spoken about. The coronavirus will hit, and there'll be two waves, very devastating for people's health and lives, and then it will just suddenly disappear. Nobody will know why, but it will come back in 10 years. That whether people did learn the lessons, they didn't make the changes, but we'll be fine. In fact, I'm pretty sure Aboriginal people are going to be pretty important to the future of humanity.
And it's interesting what you say, you know, with it being your birthday, and happy birthday for the other day. And
yeah, I'm 70.
A major milestone. It is a major milestone.
Yep.
When we're only, you know, predicted to have such a short lifespan, you know,
Yep.
And when we have our elders come through, when they defy those odds, not to take away what's happened, you know, and people being sick and things like that, but, you know, it's a great, amazing milestone for yourself as well. But I think one factor there, you talked about, you know, just spending that time and being with your family and enjoying that, and also what you said before about, you know, slowing and consolidating, because with that, and especially in business as well, fear, so much fear can come into us about what's going to happen with us. And sometimes in business too, we can be so busy that we tend to not take a reflection on ourselves, which then affects our whole well-being and our cultural well-being and things like that. So that was some really important points that you talked about there as well.
I've got a few more for business owners that, you know, our belief, Aboriginal belief about health is really holistic. And we should encourage people, ourselves, you know, everyone, you are only responsible for yourself or your child or your children. And so you have to figure your life to live mind, body, spirit, you know, and that includes culture. You know, you may not be on traditional country, but there are still things that you can do. And the world is changing so much that you could have your apartment or house or business as your nation state, just like an embassy. And I think Mother Earth and Mother Nature and your ancestors are happy, even though you might be on Ngunnawal country or Kanarakan country, you can still create your own sacred cultural space in your own space, because that's part of the changing times, and they are not going to harm or upset you for that. Because I've always been taught that the lives that we're living is about a spiritual journey, having a physical experience. And when you disconnect the two, you know, your spiritual journey and your physical, it's when you get emotional and mental illness, which then flows into physical disease. I mean, you know, I've been doing this for 60 odd years, but I did tell you how old I was. And I do teach that all physical and mental disorders start as a spiritual experience or event or denial of your spiritual, you know, existence. And I honestly believe, and I share this with the Minister of Health and everything, that in Aboriginal community, so much chronic diseases, you know, including drug and alcohol and suicide, it all comes from intergenerational trauma, because it's that spiritual trauma that's really scarred us. And so our healing is very literal. I won't go into that now. And years of being ripped away from our traditional lands and our cultural activities and laws. I need to share that through many years of travelling to the United States and England, and I've met some of the most phenomenally successful business people, old and young men and women, and I was really fascinated. Yes, they're very intelligent, they're driven, they have a bit of luck on their side, but I sat down and had really intense conversations with them. All of them maintain a cultural and spiritual aspect in their lives, and they bring that into their business. So it was just such a powerful point to me. They are dedicated to their spiritual activities as part of their daily lives, and it really works. I urge all of us First Nation peoples here in Australia to find a way to do the same. Remember, we are part of a very exclusive club of being a member of the oldest continuous surviving cultures on earth. And you go out of Australia and the other Indigenous peoples honour that. They really respect and know that that's true. So be proud of that, be strong and resilient. I had put down some little dot points of how you can walk your life with blessings with your personal ancestors, your Mother Earth ancestors and the star ancestors. And that's another whole conversation. So, Darwin is the city of the Northern Territory. I live in a house with a yard. I have very little access to my sacred sites. Although I'm getting to that age now where I don't really care and I just go do what I want to do. But everyone can regularly do the smoking ceremony. Whether it doesn't have to be the full-blown ceremony with, the bucket or the fire but you can use an incense stick. It's the spiritual intention. So by doing it regularly, smoke yourself, smoke your home, smoke your children, your family, and your environment. I find it particularly powerful on a full moon. My neighbours are used to me now. I'm just that crazy old lady that gets out there and there's smoke everywhere, but they don't worry about it because it cleanses all the negativity that gets on you, that sticks to you. And when it dissolves all that, the more negativity you have on you, you become more fearful, and the more fearful and anxious you are, the more you attract bad luck. And that, I absolutely believe that. So smoking regularly is just a little activity that you can do. I teach my grandchildren. They all looked at me weird because, they're more hooked into what's happening out there as teenagers, but now they see and they believe and they do. Try to get into nature, okay? If you're in an apartment, if you've got a balcony, great, sit on the balcony, breathe in the air. If you can't, sit at the window. Get a bit of sun, because I know from working with the Royal Darwin Hospital that so many people suffer vitamin D deficiency, which make you tired and achy and lethargic. So vitamin D, get some sun. It's an old hippie thing, but really do hug a tree. The trees bring up blessings and energy from Mother Earth up into the tree. So when you hug, you gain some of that from Mother Earth. Try and put your feet in natural water. Okay, you might be restricted to home and you can't do that, but if you've got the chance to go and put it in the ocean, the sea, a billabong, a lake, something natural, really, push comes to shove, I would probably get a nice big stone in the backyard and hose my feet while my feet were on the stone. But you've got to be innovative in saying, okay, I'm going to connect back to nature. Mother Nature, Mother Earth, and allow that. Please drink plenty of water. Eat healthily, and I mean not processed foods. One good thing about being in lockdown is that I've never cooked so many long taken to cook food in a long time. No more of this quick grab and eat. And try to get plenty of sleep. So these are little fundamental things. And when you're anxious or frightened, reach out to a good friend or family. You know, even me, FaceTime, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, I use them all. And with your personal song, the highest vibration is laughter and joy. You know, my grandkids thought I was really weird. When I was feeling really down, I'd put on, okay, I'm aging myself here, a Jerry Lewis movie, and I would just crack up rolling around laughing. And once I'd laughed, I felt lighter. So whatever gets you laughing, go for it. You know, even if you have a funny friend that will tell you jokes, that's good. For the communities here in the Territory, we tell them to go bush, you know, if you can, your traditional lands. If you don't know where they are, that's another conversation, but you can still make anywhere on Australia your country in these really difficult times. So, you know, if you're allowed to do a bit of walking, go to a park and sit, put your bare feet onto the earth and just allow your energy to communicate with nature. You know, a lot live in the city, a lot don't. So you have to just be really innovative. For somebody I knew that lived in an apartment and couldn't really get out, I took them a great big flat river rock and I said, just put your feet on that and, you know, communicate with nature. And that's what they do. All of us should speak to our ancestors. You know, as a spirit healer, a star elder, I know your ancestors are with you. So just say to them, look, you know, if your Nana's gone, Nana, I'm feeling really frightened and scared, help me. And they'll do whatever they can to help you. You know, you belong to such an ancient tradition. They'll be there for you and they'll help you. So
that's a really, sorry.
These are simple things. Doesn't matter where you're located, you can do, and you can include your family. And it's good to teach the kids these things.
Some really, really wise words of wisdom there, Aunty Bilawara, especially that connection, you know, as First Nations people, physically and spiritually, is so important. And also including your family and your children is another really important part of it as well, you know, and bringing them along your journey. The other thing that you mentioned as well is, you know, talk to somebody. If you are feeling you're overwhelmed or anxious, you know, feel another kind in your spirit, feel no good. If you can, reach out. So that's really important for our mental health and our well-being, is because we're not alone. You know, we are together, you know, we are one mob, you know, and we share and we feel, you know, for each other as well as ourselves. So that was very another really valid point that you said about, you know, reaching out and talking, you know. Sometimes too, you know, and working within mental health is just feeling and touching, you know, because it's so overwhelming that, you know, it can be so overwhelming everything, but it's what you were saying about letting your feet touch the earth or feeling the water, you know, things like that, just to help you to ground and stuff like that. So that was, really, really fantastic advice.
Well, I find that I'm an absolute hugger, but I can't hug people at the moment. So apart from my immediate family, which thank goodness they're there, I'll go out and I'll sit barefoot. Okay, I'm lucky I'm in the north, it's warmer.
Yes.
but, bear with it if you can. And just sit quietly, listen to the wind, to nature, breathe in the air, and imagine you are floating in a sea of energy. And that energy can come to you, positive energy can come to you and lighten your spirit, which will help greatly in alleviating the stress and the anxiety and the fear and pain. Because when that gets into your body, you feel pain.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's, it's, I know that when we were into the beginnings of COVID-19 and the people that were reaching out through our business networks and through relationships, how they were feeling so isolated, because sometimes people are on their own as well. And, and also too, some people are used to traveling and are used to being free in how they move around. And then all of a sudden they felt like they were a caged animal. And, that was the yarns we were having, with people about, and just trying to make that was the current normal. And we had to work through that, and how, people who would never felt isolated before, the first time in their life had felt isolated. And
yeah, I would encourage people not to think of themselves as being isolated.
Yeah.
You are being gifted with a period of time to actually go into, the Native Americans call it vision quest time. For us, it's sit down quiet time, where if you're being initiated into a higher level of being in the community, whether you're coming out of childhood into womanhood, or womanhood or into eldership, it's where you must isolate. You actually isolate, whether it's in a cave or on a hill, or, okay, it's in your apartment or your house. Take this time as a blessing. We live such busy lives. We need to stop, slow down, use this time to be creative. This is a time of creativity. I'm trying to write my third book. Good luck with that, but I'm getting there. Think of something you can do, whether it's sitting down and filling out a journal. I know so many people that say, I've always wanted to write a book. Well, start drafting. Spend more time with your loved ones. If you're at home with a partner and children, take the time to be really interested in them and their lives. And I encourage people not to think so much about themselves, but think about more of those around you and others.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I really believe that people will, who are listening to this, will get a lot out of your words, your incredible words of wisdom. I guess if people are struggling, are you able to talk a little bit about your cross-cultural communication that you spoke about before? Because you talked about cultural protocols and Aboriginal community and cross-cultural communication. Yes. Can you share a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. One of the other things I didn't mention before, but I'm actually reviving the Larrakia language, which is amazing, because I want anyone that flies in, gets off a boat or drives into Darwin will know, oh, wow, we're on Larrakia country. And people may want to think about doing that in their own communities. But cross-cultural communication, because I'm on the Minister of Health's Advisory Committee, on all these different health committees, I believe quite firmly that issues in cross-cultural communication between us and the Western medical system is one of the fundamental reasons we have so much difficulty. Communication is critical for good relations, whoever it's with. I do a lot of work here with the Multicultural Council, because I think it's also, they're the new ones arriving. They need to understand that there are most of them don't know that there are traditional custodians here and that there are protocols. I don't know if you saw the podcasts that I'm involved with.
Oh, yes.
Ask the Specialist. They that was aimed mainly at the Royal Darwin Hospital to talk about cross-cultural communication. But there are protocols. I do a workshop called Doing It Right, and I do it mainly for researchers that go into remote community. And the protocols around everything from the way you behave, the way you speak, the way you dress, the way you sit, the way you move around the community. You know, there are protocols. And if you're going to a Muslim country, there are very strict protocols. Well, it's the same for us. And I bring that with me into my life. So I'm always very loving, but I'm always pretty stern and strict, pretty strong about, I don't allow people who are in my life or area to use foul language or to tell a racist joke. I will call people out every single time. I don't care where I am or who it is, because there are protocols. And I think that part of this world change is with the Black Lives Matters, that people are starting to, I think here in Australia, and the elders up here were very excited, the horrors of the mass bushfires in Australia was terrible. And the destruction to our natives and animals was felt in our hearts. But the other thing that happened was that the smoke from this fire travelled all the way around the world and came back. So up here they're all going, yeah, well, we just did a big smoking ceremony for the world, for the earth. And that's the beginning of a healing and a change. And it was at that point that I noticed people were starting to turn and listen and talk about how we always looked after our bush and our country, and our fire masters knew how to do the burning without destroying. And so now they're actually listening and recognising and respecting our cultural practices in the bush. And they're starting to talk seriously about our healers being within the health system. And so I'm hoping it flows on to the way we teach in all facets of life. That's why I say, you know, us mob have to stay really strong and resilient to come through this, and, you know, take this time to rest and not be busy, because if you're really busy, you can't see or hear what the ancestors are trying to show or tell you about what's coming. They want to help direct you onto the right path so that you can be successful and become, you know, either you are or can become an elder of knowledge and wisdom and influence. And then we can teach that to our young'uns, because they're going to be here after we're gone. They're going to have to know how to do the right things. So investigate your own protocols for your traditions. And we are the most researched, written about, filmed, examined people on the planet. And you can access that through AATSIS. You know, take the time to talk to an elder, because, you know, every time an elder dies, a great library disappears.
Yes.
Talk to your elders about what happened when they were kids. You know, okay, some of what happened as kids may not be relevant today, but at least you know. And then you can start bringing that back into your life and then teaching it to your family and kids.
Yeah. And sometimes that's a healing part, like a healing component for us too, is, you know, hearing those stories. And because we are a resilient people, because we've been such a long time, and even all that intergenerational trauma that was, you know, cast upon us over all of the years and currently, but we still are here and we still are a resilient people. And also that's why I asked you about the cross-cultural communication and the cultural protocols, because that forms part of our cultural health and wellbeing too. because, you know, people don't acknowledge the protocol or the communication that can affect our cultural health and well-being as well. So that was fantastic. Really did.
You know, people need to understand that Aboriginal people are quite five-dimensional beings, not three-dimensional like the wider community. And that when I teach cross-cultural communication, I talk about not only the verbal communication, but our body language, our facial gestures. You know what we're like. We can have a conversation in a very loud disco and tell jokes about people and do things, because we can do that. And I always teach that when you're teaching or researching with or communicating with Aboriginal people, you may say one thing, but we'll see and feel something quite different. You might be being nice, but in your gammon, you really are quite racist and bigoted. We'll pick that up on some level because we are very spiritual people. So you need to nurture and encourage that in your children. Because I totally believe the kids nowadays have got extra DNA and they just can communicate so much on many different levels. So yeah, we have to nurture and take care of them.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I mean, you know, the rise in domestic violence is a real pain in my heart. But personally, I believe that it's darkness, negative energy that's trying to put down, destroy, shatter women who are born spiritual, from stepping up to take on their role that's so important, particularly the grandmas in these times. And I do pray to the ancestors daily for some resolution to this dreadful situation we've got, not just in our community, but in the wider community, women in general.
It's very, very true. Yeah, very true. All right, well, coming towards the end of our yarning circle, Aunty Bilawara, is there any last thoughts that you would like to leave with our people that are watching this today? You've shared so much already. It's been amazing.
Stay strong. Don't engage in the chaos. Don't become disaster fatigued from watching news 24/7. Disengage. Put on a funny cartoon or something. Go and have a bath with essential oils and candles. Spend more time for yourself and your children, because this is a dreadful but extremely special time. We'll get through it. And, you know, yeah, try and help each other. Be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for your time today, Aunty Bilawara. I'd like to, you know, as we're coming to an end, we'll close the yarning circle as we started, by acknowledging and paying respects to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ancestors, elders, community, all of our families, and to you, Aunty Bilawara, for sharing today and sharing from your heart and your spirit, which is really important for us as people. And we really felt your heart and your spirit today, and we thank you so much for that. The NT Indigenous Business Resilience Program is actually a program focused specifically for our deadly Northern Territory Indigenous businesses. So we have an online Facebook community, but we are across all social media networks, and we're supplying information about business and you know, giving tips and hints and resources. If you'd like to have more information today about what we spoke about, just comment below the word deadly, and we'll instantly be able to access information on that. And to hear this video again, it'll be uploaded to all of our social media sites, including our YouTube platform. And the program runs for 12 weeks, so we are in our second week of our program as well. If you are watching the video on YouTube, just click on the link in the description to find more information. So thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for joining us. We'll have another guest speaker on Friday to talk about the Indigenous Business Spotlight. So,
can I send out one last message to everyone?
Absolutely.
Darandara Jirayugi Guling Luju, which is sending lots of love magic to everyone.
What a way to finish. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And we'll see you on Friday. Thank you,
Yeah,
Aunty Bilawara.
Mamakachua.